Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About House. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
We are going to talk about the housing market today. But before we do that, we want to give you the answer for the yesterday's video. So we were in a simulator. We snuck out and we snuck in to a major airlines pilot training center. Mm-hmm. And we got into a simulator and flew it around for 4 hours, right? Mm-hmm. You videoed it, so we have the proof on the video. If you didn't see the video, it's at the first 2 minutes of video. I'll put the video right here. Then you can click on it and go watch the first 2 minutes, okay? But some of you guessed that it was a 737 simulator. It was not. No. Some of you guessed it was a 777.
Good guess, but
Good
no.
guess, but not. 777 does not have a HUD. There was a heads-up display in one of the pictures. That's something the pilots look through, and they can see a bunch of stuff in there. Mm-hmm. But it was actually you want to tell me the answer?
It is actually the Boeing 787.
The Dreamliner. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty fun. Anyway, so with that being said, and nobody's got any of the carriers I landed on. And I landed on 3 carriers, aircraft carriers, when I was a pilot in the Marine Corps. Nobody figured. Someone said the USS Roosevelt, Franklin D. Roosevelt, I think was the name of it. But
that was a good guess.
Or maybe it was Teddy Roosevelt. It was CV-42. Didn't land on CV-42, but landed on one that was really close to CV-42. Okay, so we're going to talk about the housing market now. All right. So here's the headline from the article: the U.S. housing market has gotten so expensive that income would have to jump 55% to make buying affordable. Real estate executive says, Juana, mm-hmm. This is probably the most ridiculous headline I've ever seen. I want to ask you a couple of questions. Define affordable. What does that even mean, affordable?
And for whom?
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So
what does that mean? What does affordable mean?
I guess it means that everybody has enough money to pay for it, but, everybody makes different choices with their money, right? So if I choose to drive a Lamborghini and I choose to dine well on all kinds of wonderful food, then maybe, the amount that I have left over for housing is insufficient to purchase the home that would be appropriate to house my Lamborghini. So is that affordability? Or is it somebody making minimum wage, somebody starting out in life, somebody with a lot of debt, somebody with poor credit? What does that mean? So I think it's kind of nebulous. If your idea of affordability is somebody who makes $70,000 a year and wants to own a $500,000 house, no, that's not affordable. Not at $70,000 a year. But somebody who makes $70,000 a year can afford a $200,000 house, a $300,000 house, yeah. Right? And that's reasonable. And if your argument is that, well, but in my market, homes are $1 million plus, well, then you need to make more money in your market, right? I mean,
if you're in San Francisco, $70,000 not a lot of money.
No. So I think this whole affordability thing, it's a throwaway word. I think people use it all the time because it gets clicks, it gets people's attention. But because it's not defined and it's not market specific, it ends up being completely useless. Okay,
we're going to talk about this more. Got some great charts. Here's the first quote from the article. It hasn't been cheap to buy a house in decades, if ever. Literally, this is the second paragraph in the article. They just said it's all of a sudden not affordable. It hasn't been cheap to buy a house in decades, if ever, but the pandemic housing boom started a huge run-up in prices as remote and hybrid workers expanded the map for millions of Americans, many of them millennials entering peak home buying age. The Zoom towns boomed and prices followed. Zoom towns, this is just people that moved from cities where incomes were high to Vegas, Boise, Austin, Phoenix, Miami, places like that, and pushed up prices because supply and demand, right?
Right.
Okay, now Juana, let's talk about this. Okay, let's say tomorrow that we woke up tomorrow morning and magically home prices were exactly the same as today. Interest rates were exactly the same as today. The amount of cash people had in their bank accounts exactly as today. But you woke up to a text message from your boss saying you're now making 55, just giving you a 55% pay raise. You're getting 55% more in wages, right? How would that affect the housing market? Would it make it more affordable?
So right now we are in a market where we have more buyers than we have homes available for sale. So we would go from fewer multiple offers to a ridiculous amount of multiple offers, because now you have even more buyers chasing the same number of homes. So it would make homes even more unaffordable, because now with multiple offers, we know that that means that everybody has to offer more money in order to secure the winning offer. So when everybody's trying to top everybody else, that all of a sudden means that with everybody else making 55% more, you're not in any different position than you were yesterday.
Right. The bottom line is, look, if you did that, if you raised incomes 55%, the number of people that could afford to buy would quadruple, right? It would push. I mean, median incomes right now in the U.S. are for household, not individuals, households, 78,000. So all of a sudden, the median would be well over. It'd be 100,000, a little over 100,000. So all of a sudden, the people making 70,000, 80,000 and up would be up substantially. And yes, in San Francisco or New York, it might not move the needle much, but in the rest of the country, it'd be substantial. And all of a sudden, those people run out there tomorrow going, "Oh, $400,000 house, I'm just going to go buy that since I make all this money." And they see a line of people all trying to make offers who all of a sudden are going, "Oh, I make more money now, so I'm going to go buy this $400,000 house." You get a bidding war for the house. Right. Over the course of a year or two, home prices just skyrocket.
It wouldn't even be over the course of a long time. It would be almost instantaneous, right? Because if everybody made 55% more, it would be instantaneous.
Yeah. Here's the next quote. For reference, Americans earn an average of $4,600 per month, according to August 23 data from CEIC. I'm going to address that in a second. However, 1/4 of new buyers are paying at least $3,000 in average monthly principal and interest payment on a 30-year fixed rate loan July 2023, according to Black Knight. For some buyers, that's the difference of $800 to $1,000 per month more on mortgage payments, meaning more than they would pay in a rental. Okay, let's address these. I'm going to leave this up on the screen while we address these. That $4,600 per month is per person. It is not per household. So yes, if you're single, you're at a disadvantage to your friend that got married, who you both work, right? They both work. So one, they each have jobs. And now their family income's more. They can afford to buy a house because they have more income, right? Okay. And it says 1/4 of new buyers are paying at least $3,000 in average monthly principal interest, okay? But the 4th are the 4th highest income earners, most likely, right? Because they bought the most expensive homes. So that you can't just take it's not like an average person would pay $3,000 in principal and interest. Because this even says 1/4 are. So do you see how they skewed it in the article? They took the highest group and said, "Oh, look how much they're paying." And then the average person, of course, wouldn't pay this. Okay. And that was based on the 30-year fixed rate in July. And here's the other thing that really gets me, that it says for some buyers, that's the difference of $800 to $1,000 a month per more on mortgage payments. If it was the exact same cost, monthly payment, to buy a house versus rent a house, knowing two things. Okay, let's just say $2,000 a month. And I know right now you can't, a house that rents for $2,000 a month, you won't get to a mortgage payment was $2,000, okay? If, based on two things, it was a 30-year fix, the payment would never change. It'd be $2,000 a month for the rest of your life, okay? Until you paid it off in 30 years. Or you know for sure that home prices are going to go up on average 4.6% per year over the course of the long term. Maybe not next year, maybe not 2 years, but if you looked out 10 years, it would probably be 46% higher, 50% higher, right? Would you rent? Assuming you got a job and this was with a good company, you were going to stay there a long time. Or would you just say, would you buy or would you rent?
Well, I would buy.
Oh, you would buy?
I would buy.
Well, why not wait for interest rates to drop? Because I've got a really good chart to show them.
Because I'm in it for the long haul. And if interest rates will drop, and I will refinance. But in the meantime, I will control the the cost of my housing. And when I do refinance, then my mortgage payment will be even lower. And by then I'll be able to probably not be too far away from buying another house and turning this one into a rental.
Right. Okay. Now, we're going to give you an example. Let's pretend, now I've had a ton of people in the comments, I'm going to wait for rates to drop back to super low before I buy. Now, we've also had people in the comments say rates are going to be 10% next year. So if you knew rates were going to be 10% and be really high for the long term, you would lock in now at this super low, anywhere from 5.5% to 7.5%, depending on what loan product you get. Because we've done videos on that. You get 5% at a new home. You get 6.5% if you're buying $1 million plus. 7.5% is for everybody else, right? That's the kind of going rate. Okay, let's imagine this. We're going to go into a time machine and go back to 1971. In 1971, rates were exactly what they are now. They were 7.29%. Okay? They were exactly what they were. And you decided, you know what? I'm not going to buy a house. I'm going to wait for rates to drop. Okay.
And then 1980 rolled around.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to put this spread chart up. This is the interest rates. If you had decided 1971 wanted to wait for rates to go up, by 1980, by the end of the 70s, rates would have been about 13%. They never went back down. They never went down during the 70s. They just went up the whole time. Throughout the 80s, they peaked at about 18%. By the end of the 80s, in the early 90s, they had plummeted to 10%. So you still wouldn't have bought a house. You would have had to wait till 1994. 23 years, almost 2.5 decades, just for rates to get back to that 7% number, right? Okay, just guessing is a percentage or multiplier. Over those 23 years, what multiple would you say home prices went up? Like the value of a home to buy a house? Just guessing. Wanda hasn't seen these charts, so she doesn't know.
200%.
So doubled.
No, 100% would be double. 200% would be
tripled then.
Yeah.
So they would have tripled.
Yeah. So if a house was $50,000 in 1971, my suggestion is that by 1994 it was $150,000.
Okay, so tripled in value. Well, actually, a house in 1971 was about $25,000.
Okay.
Median house in the U.S.
Okay.
Okay. By 1994, it's about $130,000.
Okay, so
it had 4x'd. It had 4x. It had over 4x. Here's the chart. This chart, home prices were substantially higher, 4 or 5 times higher.
And I was taller.
You were taller, okay? Substantially higher while you waited. You're waiting for that payment to be what you want it to be. Now remember, you wouldn't have bought a home in the 80s because interest rates were even higher. You'd passed on 7%, now they were 18%. And you're probably laughing at the people who paid 7% back then. Oh my God, I can't believe they're paying 7%. And then the whole time you're paying rent. Rents are going up too. So you're paying more in rent. You would have locked in a low payment of probably $150 a month.
Right. So in the quarter of a century that passed, you would have paid less because you wouldn't have had the rent increases, and you would have basically paid off house.
My parents bought a house in San Diego in 1970 for $24,000. They had about a 7% interest rate, and I think our monthly payment was like $175 or something. Okay, it wasn't very much. Well, in today's dollars, it wasn't very much. He was in the Navy, and my mom worked. She had a job, so they could make the payment. But what the thing is it was a fixed rate loan, and so in theory, if they'd never moved, they would have paid that thing off, and they would have been, if they had been a renter, their life would have been much more miserable because rents would have done nothing but gone up the whole time, right? And they would have never been able to accumulate any wealth. But you accumulate wealth 2 ways when your mortgage payment. One is depreciation on your house. The other is because you have less money going out, you have more disposable income to just save and invest, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. So let's go. Do you have any comments on that before we go to the next quote?
Well, that house that they bought for $24,000 in 1970, today is worth over $1 million.
$1 million? It's like 1.1.
Yeah.
Okay, this was a house in San Diego, and they sold it in 1975 for about $32,000.
Mm-hmm.
So they made a 50% return in 5 years, which was a big deal for them because that was actually like, they basically, it was 100% financing, and then they didn't have anything to put down, but they had like all of a sudden they have like $8,000 or whatever they didn't have previously or something like that. They had a lot of money. Okay. Here is the next quote. I thought this was pretty funny. Mm-hmm. Okay. Plus, some homeowners could be spending more than 60% of their paychecks on their mortgage alone. As a result, fewer hopeful buyers are hitting the market. Wanna? Mm-hmm. Can you even get a loan from a bank if your monthly payment is going to be 60% of your income?
No.
Why not? Explain why you can't even get a loan.
Because there wouldn't be enough money left over for you to pay things that you don't have any choice about. For example, Social Security, Medicare, food, utilities, clothing, just basic necessities of life. So no, that's the reason why there are lending guidelines, so that people can afford to meet their financial obligations.
Right. Yeah, that just shows that they don't even know what they're talking about. You wouldn't be able to get the loan in the first place. Mm-mm. Okay. Here's the next quote. I thought this one's pretty funny. If you look at home affordability itself and what it would take to normalize the market today, what makes you think the market's not normalized? Millions of homes have transacted and home prices have adjusted to supply and demand. Mm-hmm. You would think millions of times people buying houses, if the market was really supposed to be lower, the market would have figured it out, right?
I mean, over 3 million homes have changed hands this year.
Right. Okay. Here are the numbers. It's a 35. So he's saying you have to have a 35 correction in price to make the market normal. Okay. A 4% decline in mortgage rates or a 55% growth in income, some combination of those. Juana,
sir,
first of all, this is ridiculous. If mortgage rates dropped 4%, they would be back in the threes.
That's not going to happen anytime soon.
Okay, let's say mortgage rates were 3 today. What would happen to home prices?
Okay, so a couple of things would happen. One, all those sellers that are sitting on the fence would all of a sudden put their houses on the market because now everybody else is going to put their houses on the market too. So there would be a ton of transactions.
Okay.
So that would be the first thing. Second thing, there would be such fierce competitions for homes.
Yep.
Talk about home values increasing. It would be absolutely crazy again, because now you've got so many more buyers chasing, again, not enough homes, because even those sellers who have been sitting on the fence who put their houses on the market, there would still not be enough homes to satisfy the demand. So that's another thing that would happen.
Okay. The other one is 33 or 35% correction price. Let's say you woke up tomorrow.
Oh, there would be a 35% correction price, but it wouldn't be down, it would be up.
And all home prices were magically 35% cheaper. Now remember, you're a cash investor and you just paid $400,000 for a rental property. It's a nice property in a median city, like say in Vegas. And all of a sudden you wake up and find out the house right next door to it, that's exactly that you just paid $400,000 for, is now 35% less. Mm-hmm. How fast would you want to buy that house? Because you're going to get the same rent out of it. You're just going to get a better return. Pretty
fast. But what I meant by that homes would be up 35%. If interest rates were down to 3% overnight, then home prices would be up, some ridiculous amount like 35%. I don't know that it'd be 35%, but it'd be not too far off from that, again, overnight, because like I said, you'd have more buyers chasing insufficient number of homes. And then as far as to your point, that if home prices dropped 35%, then the cash buyers would sweep in and buy those, because this makes a lot of sense. Look, we've already been through this where investors are looking for a place to put their money, and real estate is still a favored place. Now, we've just been through an inflationary period, which has crystallized that in the minds of those that maybe are a little bit younger and did not go through the inflation of the 70s and 80s, or at least don't remember it well. And so now they've learned the lesson, or some have relearned the lesson. And so, yes, I mean, they would see real estate again as an opportunity as far as a hedge against inflation, and those homes would be snapped up in quick order.
Okay. Here's the bottom line. this myth that home prices are simply a magical formula between wages and interest rates, that you're financing the whole thing and that's all they're really worth, is complete nonsense.
Right, because we know 1/3 of homes out there are purchase cash.
And we know that 42% of all homes are owned free and clear. So the bottom line is, if I knock on your door and say, this is how much I make, this is what interest rates are, I can only afford this, I want to buy your house, what's the answer probably going to be?
No.
Yeah, get lost. Not my problem.
Right. Well, the other thing that you're going to see, I think, that the next time that they pull the numbers as far as the number of homes that are owned free and clear, I think you're going to see that number go up. Because of the higher interest rates, I think more people have been purchasing homes cash or are making arrangements to pay off their existing loans that maybe they've taken out over the last 12, 14 months, and they're making arrangements to try to pay those homes off relatively quickly. So I think the number of homes that are free and clear is only going to increase, not decrease.
The prices today are backed by supply and demand.
Yes.
Millions of buyers and millions of sellers, whether they're getting loans or cash, have decided this is what homes are worth. And the reason why home prices went up after the bubble, the peak in 2022, and everyone said this is the crash. Here it is. We're watching it real time, and now home prices are up more and interest rates are up. Well, it's because that's just the market price. So you either pay more or you don't buy a house. That's it. This idea that I need you to drop the price of all homes so I want to buy, because I want to have a Ferrari sitting in my house in the country club, and I make $30,000 a year. So I'm going to go to the Ferrari dealership and say, well, here's my analysis that the car should only be $25,000, and you should finance it at 2% for me, so I can buy the car because I can't afford it. I can't pay $250 for the Ferrari, right? Okay, here's the final quote from the article. Now remember, this whole thing was that housing's unaffordable, home prices have to fall 35%, wages have to go up 55%. Final quote from the article. Other housing industry experts share Walden's view. This is the guy that they quote in the article. In other words, don't hold your breath for mortgage rates or home prices to go down anytime soon. So they're saying, hey, home prices aren't going to go down. There's nothing showing that home prices are going to go down.
Right.
The moral of the story, the reason why we talked about this article, I don't know, even Elon Musk did this thing where he was being interviewed and he said home prices would go down because people can't afford homes at the current rate. Right? But that's a misperception.
So Mr. Musk needs to understand that home prices are not quite as elastic as the price of his Teslas. We don't have one wizard deciding on the price of homes the way he decides on the price of Teslas. The price of homes is a function of the market. Right. And the market's decided. Yeah. So the cash buyers ultimately cash buyers set the price. Correct. Because they have cash. So if they could get a discount, they would get it. If home prices were going to go down, the cash buyers would walk in and say, I'll pay you less. And home sellers can decide if they want to take those deals. Sure. And that happens all the time, right? There are all the iBuyers out there that do that right now. Yeah. That was all right. So what do you think? What's going on in your market? Did this article get you as fired up as it got somebody over here? It was ridiculous. Totally. Let us know your real estate related comments down below. We appreciate them. If you did not get a chance to watch that video with the 787 simulator, please go ahead and click up there on that video and go watch it. It's pretty cool. You don't have to watch the whole real estate bit. You can just watch the simulator bit. It's pretty fun. We appreciate your comments. We appreciate your likes. So remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye. Bye.